So correct me if I'm wrong. Everybody's able to control their slides right now. Is that a true statement?
Correct.
All right, perfect. So in today's session, we're going to be reviewing assisting clients and using friendly communication. Next slide. Our main objectives is going to be able to demonstrate active listening by nodding, making eye contact with the given individual that we're working with. Sorry, wrong button. Ask open-ended probing questions. We want to make sure we refrain from easy yes, no questions because sometimes that just answers that question. It really doesn't get us what we're looking for. Explain complex concepts in clear and concise client-friendly language. I've stated this before. We don't want to go and give them all these jargons that we're used to. We need to make sure that we put it in as simple as possible. We don't have to be very detailed of everything. We just need to make sure they understand what is it, clear and concise, what's going on and what we're going to do. As simply as possible, we can put a list and demonstrate the 9 steps involving in assisting an upset customer. We previously learned a much shorter one. This one is obviously dealing first with the emotional state. We've mentioned some of these steps before, but here we're just going to review and be practicing it during this session. Next slide. Our key points basically is, as we stated, active listening, asking questions, explaining concepts in friendly language. Our ultimate goal is assisting the upset customer first. Before we gotta even deal with the issue, we've mentioned it so many times. If we try to go and dive straight towards the issue of the computer, we will create a much greater issue if we are not able to remain calm, especially don't take it personal. We've mentioned that millions of times. And we need to listen. Do not assume or interrupt the client, especially in a upset client at any time. It's not going to help. Show that you heard what the client said. So we've stated we need to summarize more or less what is it that they said and be sympathetic to the situation. We can't just, again, try to, we've noticed in one of these exercises, it got very repetitive in the role play of continuously going through one client to another client to another client. We need to be very careful and make sure that we're not turning into robots. We need to be able to apologize gracefully and obviously as making sure that we don't sound fake at any given time. We need to be as friendly customer service, just like in Disney World, we explain, smile with a service, right? Find a solution, and then next start the solution in motion. If we try to just skip these steps, we're not going to be able to get anywhere. If you notice, this is very close to spot, but this is a little bit more in detail. Questions or doubts? Next slide on the opening slide. Christina, can you help me with this one?
You have already learned how to address a client. This session is going to focus on how to engage in a technical conversation with the client. Think about everything that you have already learned about solving technical problems for your clients. You will learn so much more over the next few weeks. How much do you think your clients know about the types of technology you will be assisting them with?
Thank you. So, Jordan, what do you think about that question? How much do you think your clients know about types of technology you will be assisting them with?
Usually not much. More so they just kind of know how to turn it on, turn it off, or do whatever daily functions that they bought the technology for.
Yeah. And sometimes, we got a wide variety, but usually the ones that are calling in, some of them may have experience, some of them don't. And it's likely like you say, more of them are going to be towards the latter. We're going to make sure that we communicate with these clients, though, either which way they are, so that they understand what we're telling them. We need to be able to adapt to the situation. Because if the guy starts talking to you in very technical language and then we try to dummy it down, it could be insulting to that guy, right? So the person's talking to you, he knows exactly what he's doing. He's just calling you for help. He's still a client, but now you got to adapt to the situation. And if we try to treat him like another user that has no idea what we're talking about, that could even get even worse. Thank you. Go ahead. Next slide, please, everyone. So, although your clients, like we said, are going, why do you think a client might start an interaction with you in his or her IT profession already upset? Can somebody help us with that one? Lazaro, what do you think about that question there? Why do you think a client might start an interaction with you, right, on the phone already upset before you even get to help them?
Well, there's many reasons, but the most common one is that they're frustrated and they want to put on something.
Yeah, exactly. They're frustrated with the technology. It's obviously your fault because you're representing Apple, and my iOS, when I try to upgrade it, doesn't want to work because I don't know, my battery ran out or something when it was upgrading. So they're highly dependent with this technology. Right now, these things, I'm not trying to make fun, but they're getting as dangerous as any drug that's out there. There's individuals that if you take away a device like this, they can get very, very upset. So when they get to you on the phone, we know we need to be able to assist many different clients in every state that they're in. They could be calm and nice and kind to us, but as we learn, not all of them are going to be like this. We also discussed that, we want to ensure that every client gets the best possible experience here in Disney World. So just remember those words, because that's one way you could at least be able to smile just thinking about those poor individuals in Disney. They're probably having much worse than we have it right now as we're in this phone, because they have to smile continuously and sound sincere at all times. I don't know if you guys know, but there's, how they have that show where the undercover boss or whatever, well, they do that in Disney. They send individuals to test these people and see if they actually are giving the experience. Next slide, please. I believe we're on 7. Okay, Alexa, can you help us with this slide, please?
When you're on the job, you'll be meeting many different clients. In this session, we're going to discuss the best ways to communicate with clients so that they are able to understand the information you are telling them. As we learn to best communicate with our clients, we will also discuss how to assist a client who is upset. We want to ensure that every client has the best possible experience.
Next slide. Here, 8 here. In a previous session, as we stated, we discussed how to effectively address a client, any client, given client. And it was pretty simple, right? It was spot. We're going to smile, welcome the client, address and present ourselves, then offer the help. Always make sure that they feel like if they're in their house or they're in their friend's house, an environment, that Disney environment we want. And in that first 3 letters usually happen within the first utterance before we even get anywhere. So we're going to smile, or at least on the phone sound sincere in welcoming them on the phone. And we're going to present ourselves and offer to help in that order. At the end, obviously, we thank the client for their service and obviously ask them if there's anything else that we can help them with before we get off. Go 2 slides down. We're in active listening after that. So we're going to slide 10 now. Active listening slide. DeAndre, if you can help me with this slide, please.
Active listening. After you have greeted the client, it will be time to begin discussing the client's needs. Whenever you are working with a client, there are 3 separate skills that you should keep in mind to make strong client communication: active listening, asking probing questions, and explaining concepts using client-friendly language. We will start by discussing the idea of active listening. To get ready to think about this, we are going to do an activity.
Okay, thank you. So, next slide. We're on 11. All right. This is gonna be very difficult. You guys gonna have to get a piece of paper or something to draw with. Maybe even inside this application, which is the one that we're in, I believe there is a thing called whiteboard. If you don't have a piece of paper, you could use the whiteboard to annotate or something like that. It's up to you what you want to use and how you're going to use it. Either a piece of paper or maybe Microsoft Paint, doesn't matter what it is, but the rules are you can't ask me any questions. I'm just going to tell you these instructions exactly in order, and then we will share the marvelous paintings that you'll have for me by the end of this. Okay, before we start, any questions? You sure? All right, here we go. Step 1, draw a circle. I'm gonna draw a circle. All right, ready? Hopefully you guys, you Picassos can draw a circle in less than 10 seconds. Step 2, draw a line in that circle. Five seconds should be good enough to draw a line inside that circle. That thing. Draw 2 dots in that circle. We have a line inside the circle. Now we got 2 dots inside that circle. All right. Now, after we finish those 3 things, draw 3 lines that come out of the circle. 3 lines that are going to come out of the circle. Step 5, draw another circle next to the first one. You have slightly overlapping. So it's going to be the first circle and the second circle slightly overlapping. Then, after you've driven, I can't ask, unfortunately, any questions, but I will say it again if you didn't hear it. Draw 1 circle next to the first one, slightly overlapping the first circle. Draw
just like another circle.
Draw another circle next to the first one, slightly overlapping.
But like the first line that was coming out of the first circle, or the
I have
first circle?
no idea. Unfortunately, I can't answer questions right now. To be able to play the activity, it has to be this way. I can't answer any questions. Later, you'll see why.
Can you say it one more time?
Okay, I could give you the exact instructions. Draw another circle next to the first circle, slightly overlapping.
Okay, got it.
That's all I can say, unfortunately. You'll see, it gets pretty interesting. Now that you've drawn the circle next to the first one, then draw 2 lines connected to that circle. Draw 2 lines connected to the circle. After you've drawn those 2 lines, now draw 2 small lines connected to the first 2 lines you've already drawn. Draw 2 small lines connected to the first 2 lines you have already drawn.
Repeat that, please.
Yeah. So step 5 overall was I drew a circle next to the first one, slightly overlapping it. Then you're going to be drawing 2 lines connected to that circle. Draw 2 small lines connected to the first 2 lines you have already drawn. It's got to be looking beautiful right about now. I could just
It is
imagine.
messy.
Yeah, it should be very beautiful. Yeah, right about now, it should look
I
like.
don't know about you. Mine looks like a demon.
It may. You'll be surprised. You'll be surprised.
Mine looks
Draw
like a Pokemon.
another. Step number 6. Draw another circle. Step to the second one. Draw another circle. Step to the second one, slightly overlapping. And then repeat everything that we have done already. So it's slightly overlapping the second one. And then repeat the steps of basically, draw the 2 lines to the circle, draw the small lines connected to the first 2 lines already drawn. I really enjoy these pictures when they come out. I could just imagine. It was very, very interesting, everything. You guys feel comfortable? We're pretty much finished. Your Picassos should be done. We should be ready to see everybody's wonderful, wonderful pictures. Let me see. Where in the world?
I've got half a caterpillar.
Right.
How'd you get that? You sure?
God, it looks like a.
That's what it should look like.
a
Yeah,
space probe.
Yeah, definitely.
Mine came out like a space probe.
Let me see. I can't see it.
Hold on. All right, just let me finish the other line real quick.
Can I show mine?
Yeah. Please. I want to see everybody's pictures, please.
I have mine.
Nice.
Wait, did the other circles
you're
need
not
to have?
supposed to copy now, Carlos. You're supposed to draw what you expected.
All right.
Nice. That's what I like.
It looks like a space probe in a way. I don't know.
Anybody else got one?
Yeah, I got one. Can you guys see this?
That is so cute.
Anyone else want to share? I like it. I'm glad they're all different. They should be different. Should be different.
Don't worry, you don't want to see mine.
No, we do. We want to see yours. Come on.
Oh, we do.
You're gonna have to let me share it because I put it on Microsoft Paint.
You should be able to share. I unshared my screen.
There is a show yours, Alexa.
That's more like it. I like that. Alexa, do you have yours? Thank you, Lazaro. That's great.
That is cute.
Wait, that's cute?
Yeah, it is cute. Look like a little ant.
Sorry, Alexa, I didn't get to see yours. Did you put yours up?
It has all his legs gone.
Yeah. Nice. Did everybody get to share on the screen yet? I don't think I saw everybody's.
I don't know if you saw
Nice,
mine.
DeAndre. No, I got it. Wow. That looks great. I like it.
Christina, sorry.
Now, anybody notice something about the images though? Any trait in these images that we find? Did all of them look the same? Did any of them look the same to you guys?
They're all different.
They all like
They're all
they look like they were in like a Bugs family or something.
some weird thing. Either we had a space probe, a bug, but nothing was concise. Nobody had a clear picture of what we really wanted, did we? So that's what's happening here is in this activity on purpose. We want to simulate that when we are communicating with the client, you don't want to act like you did when I was trying to give the instructions. I just went like a robot, right? It was frustrating. You were asking questions and all I did was repeat. You're like, yeah, but, you're like, it's like, and I just repeat. It's frustrating. So you got to be careful. I know it's difficult sometimes when we, like I said, it gets repetitive. We don't want to, at one point, sound like a robot because we have these, like I said, solutions that are given to us. And sometimes we just go like that. We just read off of a piece of paper and we don't react to the directions and or the questions that the user's asking us. I did enjoy that one. So what did you do in this exercise that would not be a best practice when talking to your client? What do you think? What do you do in this exercise would not be a best practice?
Being vague. When you're like draw a line, it's like, okay, how big of a line or how big of a circle or where on the circle is it at?
Yeah. And you weren't able to ask questions, right? You didn't ask any questions. So that was like even more frustrating because like, just tell me what you want, man. Like I'll be able to get this, but it's hard if you don't ask those questions, and if you actually do that, absolutely nothing, and don't ask probing questions, you're not gonna get a clear picture. So we need to not only repeat back to the customer, but we need to be able to probe, because if we haven't really understood fully the picture, we're gonna get all those different things like we just saw earlier. Any questions or doubts? Sorry, guys. I've been flipping through. Hopefully, you guys notice I'm now on 14. I'm on slide 14. One of these keys to talking with client is active listening. Can anybody define to me what they believe active listening is?
You're listening to words, but also trying to figure out like if some of those words have deeper meanings. You have to really tune into what somebody is saying to understand sometimes, because they can often talk very vaguely.
Yeah, that's where we gotta make sure we give those questions to follow up after we summarize what we believe we understood. Never use exactly the words that they just gave you, because obviously it's not going to be an essay of where they're trying to give you copyrighted material, but you need to rephrase it in a way that it's a summary. Because if you sound, once again, like if you're just repeating word for word, that sometimes annoys people. So just try to give your summary of what you believe they stated, and now we can continue from there. All right. Thank you. Now we're going to the next slide. All right. That's slide 15. So let's see, who hasn't helped me out yet? Oh, I could just pick any in this application, let it pick. Christina, to help us here.
Which is active listening. Pay attention, take notes, interrupt clients to ask relevant questions, read between the lines, make assumptions to be efficient, finish the client's sentences, assess the client's level of experience with technology, assess the client's emotional state, listen for unspoken requests, paraphrase what the client has said.
Okay. So from that list, team, can anybody tell me which do they believe are part of active listening? Is paying attention part of active listening?
Yes, paying attention, take notes, access the client's level of experience with technology. access the client's emotional states.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then there was paraphrase what a client has said, right? Now there was one thing, actually two things that you guys said earlier. I think it was maybe Jordan, or I'm not sure who said it. Read between the lines and listen for those unspoken requests. Because sometimes when you make these probing questions, they gave you some information like this aha moment where they're not saying that they're having this problem, but we need to be able to see that vagueness and read between the lines. I think the key word you guys said earlier was vague. Sometimes they're not very, very concrete on exactly what they want to say. Obviously, last statement on the list of paraphrasing what they said, that's basically what we want. We want to paraphrase and express the meaning of what the person said, but obviously trying to use slightly different words. Any questions or doubts on this slide?
Yes. So it's has finished the client's sentence, but I don't think so because as a client, I can get offended as well.
It's after they finish, so we're not going to interrupt them at all. We're going to wait until they completely finish what they want to tell us, right? We need to be able to listen and obviously maybe nod and you know, express that we're understanding. And then as soon as they, usually the thing is you wait maybe 3 seconds, see if they've stopped, make sure, and then we can actually obviously paraphrase what the client has said. All right, I'm going to slide 17. Can you help me out here, Lázaro?
All right. What is active listening? To paraphrase is to express the meaning of what the person said, but using different words. Paraphrasing is a way to achieve clarity. This means that you will reword what the client said and repeat it back to him or her to make sure that you understand not the exact words, but what the client really meant. This is an important step of active listening. This provides that you are not just hearing the words, but you are really listening to what the client needs. Paraphrase, you can use phrases like so, what I hear you saying is, or is insert summary, a fair summary of what you are experiencing. Now, we're going to practice demonstrating active listening in a scenario that you will have already done once before.
Thank you very much. Now I pass it to you in the news. No, I'm just kidding. Let's go to number 18. We're going to take out that piece of paper one more time, right? I'm going to give you pretty much the exact same instructions. This time, though, you'll be able to basically pay attention to what I'm saying, ask any questions you like, try to even read between the lines, look at each other's figure of what's going on, what you believe, so you'll be able to share with each other what you think is going on. I will also be giving you good active listening techniques, and I'll be paying attention to anything that you're asking me. So basically, we will try to mimic this time. You're going to be able to ask probing questions, and I will make sure that I have my listening skills open. So no more robot. Any questions or doubts on the game? Okay. So let's begin. Let's draw a circle. So we're going to draw a circle.
Are we making another painting?
Huh?
Are we making another painting?
Yes, please. This
Okay.
time, we're going to make another painting with the exact same instructions as we did before. I'm just going to reiterate them, but this time you can interrupt me, ask any questions you like, any specifications you need to be able to get, hopefully, all of us the same picture. Any
All right.
questions before we
Give me
start?
1 second so I can look for a different pen. I just had it. Hold on. Okay, you can start.
All right. Remember, you can interrupt, ask me any questions, but it's up to you to ask the questions, and I will do my best to answer them and specify as much as I can. First one is to draw a circle.
How big of a circle?
Circle should be all the same size, the ones that we're going to be working with, and it should be at least a quarter or less, depending, as long as they're all symmetric to the same size of each other, it should be good enough, depending on how big you want to make it. As long as it's more than, I would say, an inch big, you know, give it at least an inch to make sure that we can be able to stick stuff that we're going to put in there. And the circle should, any other questions in reference to the first circle that we're drawing? So on this circle that I've drawn on this piece of paper, I want to draw a line in that circle.
What direction you want the line?
Good question. So I would like the circle to be here and the line to be about 3/4 ways down, starting from the left of the circle and coming about 3/4 ways through. So it's going to be at the 3/4 ways down on this circle, coming from the inside of the circle edge and going 3/4 ways down, almost looking like a smiley face on him. But it will be touching the circle on the left and coming 3/4 ways through.
So is it a happy smiley face or?
Type of a happy smiley face, correct. It has to, that line is not going to be completely straight. You want to make a slight little, making him look a little bit happy there, but it will be touching his left cheek. So it'll be like that kind of view. So you're going to be having a profile view of whatever we're drawing, kind of. Any question on the line, location, and or other questions for the line? Okay, the next one, we want to draw 2 dots. They're going to be slightly above, not touching at all the edge on the left, but once again, taking in mind that this is going to be slightly a profile view, so the 2 dots are going to be more off-centered towards the left of this circle, making it look like 2 eyes. Slightly above that given smiley face line that we just did, we're going to be putting those 2 eyes. Any questions? Doubts?
Should we leave space in the middle of the circle?
We have the line we started at 3/4, so just slightly above that, you're going to put the 2 eyes. Above that circle should be kind of empty. I would say above the halfway, that is kind of, right now at this moment, it should be completely empty, that circle. You're going to try to keep it maybe the 2 dots maybe in the center almost. The line is 3/4 ways. I would say yes, the 2 dots are off centered to the left and about halfway in the circle. Or, you know, like when it's up and down wise, almost halfway through, and they're going to be more towards the left, the 2 of them, mimicking eyes on this given individual or thing that we're creating. Any questions before we continue to step 4? All right, again, now we're going to draw 2 lines that come out of that circle. 2 lines that come out of the circle.
Do they start from within the circle?
Good question. Well, we're going to try to mimic, again, still this profile view. It will be on the top of the circle. They're not going to be too long. These two are going to look like if they're 2 antennae mimicking. Obviously, one will be touching the circle, going out towards the left, mimicking like if it's on this side, so you couldn't see it really. And then this one here is going to be a little bit more in the circle, mimicking like if it's on that profile view that you can see and coming up out of the circle. So both of them, the first one is touching the circle, coming out. The other one is inside the circle, like if it's in the front of his face here, and coming out of the circle that way. Again, towards the left of that given circle. Not too large.
Only on the left side?
Yeah, so the left side, you're going to have one touching, and then the other one's going to be a little bit inside the circle, right? Because so you got the eye that's there, that second eye that's almost in the middle. So you can use that as a slightly your thing, and you can push it a little bit behind, right? Because his antennae is going to be here. So wherever your dot is for the eye, your antennae, the one that you can actually see, is inside the circle coming out. Doesn't have to be big, but it should be parallel to the other side that you can't see, right? That is going to be touching the circle. Since you can't see that side of his head, is touching the circle coming up. Parallel to the guy that you can see going that way, in other words, to your left. There goes my iPad. Questions? To the 2? No? All right. Step number 5. Draw another circle next to the first one, slightly overlapping.
Which side you said again?
Good question. I didn't. In reference to the circle itself, so we have our original circle. On the left side is his face. We're going to overlap on the right side. So he's going to be kind of touching the circle. So I can't see a full circle, right? Because since he's overlapping, and he's going to look something like this. So the original circle with another circle to it, mimicking the next portion of the body that we're about to create. Here's that circle, original circle on the left. The next circle is next to it. It could be the other way around on your screen, maybe like this, if you like. One next to each.
So is it the circle's left or the person's left?
It will be to the right. The original circle is going to be on your left in your painting, and then the next circle is going to be touching the right side of your original circle. So he'll be on the right side of the original circle, overlapping. In other words, it's going to be broken. You see my finger here? How the original circle is a complete circle. This one's going to be a circle that's broken. You can't see it because when it's touching the original circle, it's going to look like a body of an ant or something like that, where you can't see the full circle, but you can see the half circle on this side or whatever you want to call it, semicircle, U-shape, whatever you want to call it. It may look like a U more than a circle. Or a C, a backwards C, if you like to call it anything else, better lack of a name. Any question on that circle, the second circle? Going to be to the right of the head that we created. All right. Now, draw 2 lines connected to the circle, to this circle. Draw 2 lines that are connected to this circle.
Where do they come out from? The top, bottom, side?
Good question. Yeah, they come off from the bottom of this circle, mimicking the beginning of a leg. So it's going to be straight, however you like, if you want to make it, hopefully looking like if he's almost walking. So one will be more towards the left, coming straight out, and the other one is coming straight out, just straight lines. Either one coming this way to the left, and the other one coming out, both from the bottom. Neither of them are centered. So the first line will be off-centered on the left side of that, circle. And the other one is off-centered towards the right, both in angles, mimicking like the legs sticking out in angles like this. They shouldn't be. They should be longer than the antennae, but not huge, obviously. Mimicking the leg, not the feet yet. We haven't created any feet, just the leg, straight coming out. Any questions on those two lines that we just created? All right. Now draw two small lines connected to those two lines you already drawn.
Where are the lines
Two
going?
lines are you talking about?
Thank you. The lines basically are going to connect, acting like if they're little shoes and or feet. So the left one will be, or both of them will be facing left, connecting from your two legs. You have your two lines coming this way, and your feet are going to be facing towards the left, since it's a profile view of this given individual that we're creating. It's going to have his feet going like that towards the left, touching both of on the bottom of the actual lines that we just created, mimicking shoes or feet or whatever you want to call them. Any questions on that? On that second pair of lines that we just created? No? All right. Now that we completed that, now let's go to draw another circle next to that circle, slightly overlapping it. Another circle next to the second circle that we just created, slightly overlapping. Any questions on that circle? Where to put it? How to
You
put
want it
it?
the same size or bigger?
Good question. So it'll be next to that one. We're going to do exactly like we did with the first circle. So it's going to look like another C or backward C coming out of this circle. Try to keep it parallel, all circles parallel to each other, so it can mimic the body. It's going to be the center section of a given individual that we're creating. Thorax, I don't know the parts of an insect. Don't ask me. So this third circle is touching the second circle on the right side, right? Mimicking exactly what we did with the first circle to the second circle, and obviously it'll be proportionally correct to each other. That will be the center of his body. Any questions on this circle?
What color should we have it for?
Color,
Since we
yeah,
have
everything
color.
can be whatever color you want. It doesn't matter for colors. It can be all in black, all in blue, whatever color you guys want. That's not an issue. It's more, hopefully we get the same drawing or shapes. Any questions on that circle? We should have three circles, one full circle, two semi kind of circles, right? All right. Now we're going to draw another circle next to this circle. That's the third circle. I'm going to put a fourth circle to that circle. Any questions?
Which direction?
Same thing, exactly the exact same thing. Thank you for the question. You're going to put it like that backwards C. It's only touching now that circle that you have parallel again. They're going to completely be parallel to each other. Right next to each other on the right side is going to be that backward C touching that circle. Now you repeat the exact same steps that you did with the second circle. So you're going to create the lines coming out of it to create the legs, and the second pair of lines to create the feet in the same direction. Everything the exact same way, so it looks more or less the same as the second circle. Same length for the legs, same length for the shoes, feet, whatever you want. Any questions, doubts? Okay.
That was for the fourth circle, correct?
Correct. That was the fourth circle. It should be a duplicate of the second circle. It's going to have two lines coming out of it in angles to mimic the legs. And then from those two lines that came down, you're going to have a second pair of lines to mimic the shoes and or feet, whatever you want to call them. Should hopefully have all the same drawing of four circles and or different things coming out of them. Any questions, doubts before we proceed? Any other questions on any portion of this drawing that we just created? Now, I would like to see your drawings again. Give me a second here so I can stop my share. Can everybody please show your drawings, your Mona Lisas to us? Wow, that's pretty good. Any other ones?
I have to share mine.
Go ahead. There you go. Yeah, right. Okay, anybody else?
Try to do mine. Look at this. Then I stop in the middle.
Didn't get it. That was pretty good. Thank you. Justin, Daniel, or Jordan? I don't think I saw you guys yet. Put it up.
This is mine.
Nice. Real good. Thank you, guys. So, as we see it, now it was a little bit easier or harder for you guys, you think?
A little harder.
Harder?
It's a little harder, yeah.
For real? To be able to ask all the questions and everything, you still found it harder? Does this drawing
harder in the sense, it was harder in the sense because you were adding more details. You were including more details in exactly the specific manner that you wanted it. I don't know, like.
Yeah,
that was just me.
Correct, because I wanted to make sure you guys had an exact idea of what I wanted, so that hopefully we all, if we go to slide 19, we all have this more or less this drawing. I know some of us unfortunately don't have the Picasso skills, but it should more or less look alike. It should. What the different part here is, obviously some of you were asking probing questions. I was even sometimes being as a little bit more of sharing and making sure we all were in the same picture. It's very difficult when we don't communicate on both sides and we don't get more questions asked, because then some of us start assuming we understood, and then we don't get the same picture at the end. But I always enjoy this activity when we first do it, and then compare it to the second one. Usually it's very fun. Another thing I think you guys might have not been doing is in the background, you should have been showing each other the drawing of what you believe was coming out. That was a part of the instructions. You were able to share at that time to kind of show if you guys kind of had an idea. And nobody ever asked me, oh, does this look like what you think? I don't think any of you asked me that. You guys asked me questions, but you didn't summarize or show me that you understood. And that was a part of the exercise, is to wait and see if you guys actually asked those questions and kind of summarize and show back to me, is this what you wanted? And then I could have said yes. But since nobody was showing me, the rule for me was I couldn't ask you to show me. And then obviously that would be cheating in the exercise. But it's always fun. All right, guys, we're going to take a 15-minute break. It's 10:15.
Scam me. This way you're going to tell me it's worth more than it is and you're going to make me pay for it. No.
Yeah, it's like that banana taped to a whiteboard that was like worth a lot of money.
Yeah. It
More than a
usually
million.
Say,
it's who creates it and their vision. I like that. I like it. All right, guys. So as we saw in this exercise, it can be difficult if we don't also summarize and or confirm. I was giving you guys a chance there to confirm in every step, and some of us did get the exact same pictures, but some of us didn't, and that's due to obviously if we don't summarize and or confirm with the client, we're going to have those type of issues. Let me see if I can. We were on slide 19 of 39, right? Correct, everyone?
Yes.
All right. So any questions or doubts in reference to asking probing questions or even summarizing afterwards? So when we discussed the elements, I just went to slide 20 of active listening, you noted that good listeners do not make assumptions. We shouldn't be making assumptions. They do things like complete the person's sentences. Instead of making assumptions, we do probing questions, and then eventually when we believe we have the information that really is what they want, eventually, I just went, sorry, to slide 21. We want to make sure that it relates to the client is saying, but tries to get more information, not just ask the exact question that we originally stated. But if they just stated something, we want to make sure we summarize sometimes and make in that our question more probing, trying to get more information from them. Not to ask questions, once again, just yes or no, but something that can actually get more feedback from that user. It is important of asking good questions because obviously the quality of the questions will directly impact the quality of the answers. Next slide. So if we can have DeAndre help me with this slide, please. We're on slide 22 overall.
Okay, client-friendly language. Asking probing questions. Imagine that you are standing on the street outside your house. A woman comes up to you and says, "Help, I can't find my hotel." You can see that she is holding a tote bag with the name of a hotel on it. You could assume that you know she is staying in that hotel and give her directions, but you don't. But you know that good active listening means that you don't make assumptions. What types of questions should you ask this woman to make sure to help her the best way you can?
Mm-hmm. So can anyone help us out there? What questions can we make? Thank you, DeAndre. What questions can I do to help this young lady or madam? I'm not sure how old she is.
Ask her what hotel she's staying at.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
I would first ask her her name and then the hotel.
Okay.
ask her if she remembers what city it was in.
That's a good question, right? What happens if I do send her to the hotel, but that's not the hotel she's looking for? That's a good question. Like it. Any other questions I can ask her?
Where is she coming from?
Yeah, maybe if she was just near it, from which direction did she come from? What street was it on, right? Of course, obviously, when we're working with a client, we were trying to get as much information as possible. So we want to make sure we probe them with as many questions so that when we come up with our understanding of what we believe their issue is, we can then present that to them as what we believe it is, and then move forward. Make sure we always summarize and confirm, because if not, we're going to get those weird pictures at the end, right? We just keep on asking them questions and just keep on drawing the picture without confirming back to make sure that, hey, this is part of the picture. Does this look right? Okay, let's go. That's why sometimes if we just think that just by asking all these questions and just writing down what we think that is, sometimes it's, at the end, it will frustrate the customer. We might send this lady to the hotel, unfortunately, that's on Edwin Street, but she wanted it to go to the one, like somebody stated, one city down. It had nothing to do with the city that she was in. Thank you. Next slide, guys. Going to 23, I believe. Even without considering what the specific problems might be, what type of questions might you want to ask for any? So let's imagine that a client comes up to you and says that his computer will not turn on. What kind of questions can you ask?
Is it switched on? The power supply is on or not?
Any other questions we can ask them?
The classic one of, is it plugged in?
Okay. Any other one?
Could I ask if there has been like any recent, he's done any recent modifications to the computer or any recent changes or just stuff like that.
Okay.
See if,
Does your area have power?
So far, yes or no questions. Is there any probing questions I can ask?
Maybe if there's been any like severe weather near them.
What's the last thing you did on your computer?
Okay, now we're digging. Okay, now I'm gonna. That's not a yes or no question. Now they gotta take a little effort on that one. I like that question. Any other questions?
Do you like tea?
On topic though. I like that one. Do you like tea? Did you have tea on your computer? That would be a good question. Where was it stored? I bet if it was maybe like you said, there was a storm, and where was it stored during this storm? Do you have any type of power protector on your unit? When was the last time it turned on? Those questions get them to think, right? But if I ask them yes or no questions, I'm going to be here all day and night. So we need to be able to ask them questions that get more, even something as simple as this, get more information than just yes or no. Because it's obvious, hopefully, that they have the intelligence of knowing where the button is, or if it's on or off, or if it's plugged in it or not. Those will probably be right, maybe one of the key questions, obviously, at first. But when we get past that, we need to make sure that we can ask those type of probing questions to see where it may lay the problem. Could be as simple as maybe they installed a new card in there and they didn't put it in right. And that obviously is going to create a major problem. It won't boot. If it creates a short, it's not going to boot. Any questions, else? Next slide, please. Everyone, we should be on 24. So, as we stated, we should always want to ask as many specific questions as possible, and taking obviously time to actively listen, ask questions obviously that would save you time. If we just ask yes or no questions, it's going to take us longer. So try to ask those open-ended questions that we can. As you see some examples here, what happened after you rebooted? What did you try to do when you installed the update? Any questions in reference to their ultimate first thing that they told you that can hopefully help you determine exactly how it happened and what we can do to obviously proceed from there to fix it. Any questions or doubts? Slide 25, if no questions or doubts on that. So probing questions are your what, when, why, where, how. Those usually help you know what are your probing questions. Makes it much easier if you start a question with what is wrong, instead of saying, okay, does it turn on? Right? Whatever details of what happened, when did it happen, how often, those things are key, especially the when and how often is it happening, because it could only be sporadically. It could be that every time they open something. Has it been happening before, or is this always been happening? Maybe something that they're the ones that are causing it. So we need to make sure why did it happen? Did it happen when you touch this button, when you put too much information here, where did it happen? What location? There was and lastly, how did it happen? Depending on the given situation, you use those questions. It makes it much easier to determine the overall issue. You're not going to ask every single question here. You use them sparingly as you get better at it. You'll see what questions you want, but you want to make sure that however you phrase your question, that they are probing questions that are open-ended, not yes or no questions. Obviously, there is times where you need yes or no questions, but if we really want to dig further, we need to start asking those. Any questions before we proceed? Next slide is 26. It's so important to actively listen to our clients, as we stated, but your client won't do all the talking. You will also need to explain certain things to your clients. Sometimes you might just fix a client's problem. More often, though, you will talk a client through a solution that he or she will perform themselves. Or even if you are directly fixing an issue, your client might want to know exactly what is being done. Modern day technology allow us to net op and or remote desktop and other things to a client's PC. We want to make sure we always ask before we obviously go into these computers. And even though you're fixing it, we want to make sure that we speak to them and explain what we're about to do in client-friendly language. Next slide, 27. So imagine that you're a medical doctor. You are doing some important and complex research on a rare disease. You have a colleague, a fellow surgeon, who wants to know about your research. You would explain your research to your colleague using very technical language and with as many details as you can. Now imagine that you have a 7-year-old patient who has the disease. You are in a meeting with the patient's parents. You want to explain your research to see if they would be interested in joining this clinical trial. How would you need to explain your research to the patient and parent in a different way than you would with your colleague?
You'd have to use some like semi-soft language and to not make them feel like they're a lab rat, as a clinical trial research. That can sometimes scare certain people because you're like, oh, you're gonna do medical experiments on my child or whatever. And you have to be real careful with language in certain situations.
Exactly. You're not going to give them the details like you are with your colleague. You'll explain it to them, telling the truth, but obviously not in simple terms, to make it obviously help them understand, not frighten them from the solution, but obviously just make them understand what it is. They're obviously going to know it's a clinical trial, but we're not going to get into details of that. But whatever we can do, we don't want to try to give them all this jargon that we're talking with our colleague. They're not going to understand half of the stuff that's going to come out of your mouth. So just explain to them as simple and obviously make it as I like to say, as dumbed down as possible without insulting anybody's intelligence, because in their level. Questions, doubts?
Quick question. Would deception be pretty bad? Because we're kind of doing deception if we're not explaining the trial, right?
No. You want to explain, you're going to tell them it's a trial, but I'm saying you're not going to get into the details of all the ins and outs of that trial as you would with a surgeon, or explain to them obviously these people are signing pieces of papers in reference to this patient, and they're going to know is that, but you're not going to go into the complex details of explaining how this works. You would try to put it as simple as possible to them for making them understand what this medicine and or clinical trial is about. Did that better explain what I was trying to say? There's no point we're going to lie to client, but we're not going to go into as much detail as he is with his doctor colleague as he would with their parents. Did that?
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was like some form of deception, like leaving
No.
behind.
Sorry for that misunderstanding. No. We just don't want to beat a dead horse, right? They know they're joining a clinical trial. We're not going to concentrate on the details of the jargon on the words. We're going to try to simplify it as much as we can, and we're not going to bore them to death with all the other research or other things in here. We try to explain to them as simple as possible for them to understand what the problem is and what the solution can be. At no point, obviously, we try to lie to the client. We just try to simplify it as much as we can for them to understand. Thanks for the question.
Think of it like reworking your explanation.
Yeah, it's just harder. And this is what I was saying, is that here is where you're talking to your coworkers, right? This is the level where you would be with the coworker, and that's that one language I told you. Here's your second language, which is your client friendly language. That's how you would talk to your actual clients. You're going to be talking to them, not obviously as a 7-year-old or their parents, but as much as you can so that they can understand. You're not going to be explaining the problems in the registry and where you found it. That's got nothing to do with them. Did that make more sense? So you're not going to go into the details of how you or what the problem is, but you explain it to them. Maybe there's a problem with their hard drive. We're going to get some parts in, or we're going to try to fix your hard drive, whatever it is, but we're not going to get to the in and outs and details of where the problem lies in our language. And the last language, everybody remember which one it is? So we have our client-friendly language. We have our colleagues' language. What was the third language?
Is it technical jargon?
The technical would be your colleague.
No, yeah, it's
technical.
Yeah.
Would be your colleagues. Your technical language with your colleagues. You're client-friendly with the clients. And there's one more person that you talk to, or several individuals that are in that rate.
Like your bosses, your higher ups?
When you're escalating things, that's a completely different language. Do you think that this medical doctor's CEO, the company, really cares much about all that complex research? When you're talking to anybody that's in management, they care about the details, but in the moment that you're escalating, what do you think they're looking for? They obviously care about all the details. Let me rephrase this. But when you're coming to them, what are they looking for you to tell them? Impact. Impact is what always you want to be reporting, because obviously you have your colleagues that you're working with. You have, this is obviously every different company is different. You have your resources that you can go to. When you're going to management is because you yourself have not been able to resolve the issue or give it somebody else to be able to resolve it. So you need to escalate, do because of time, do because of the customer sometimes themselves is outraged and doesn't want to calm down, and we're never going to hang up, right? So we want to make sure we service that. So that might be another reason. But usually the word they're looking for, what is the impact and how can they obviously assist you? They're there to assist you, but you need to be able to explain to them exactly where the problem is. When we're talking about that type of language, when we're dealing with our management, usually in terms of service. Talking about service here, right? Because I'm with a client and stuff like that. So when I'm going to them, that's the type of language they're looking for. Be your management or NOC management, that would be the network operations centers, or other people that you will be going to escalate issues. They're usually looking for the impact and how they can assist you to get that resolved. Any questions or doubts? Next slide, please. We're going 28. As we stated, we're going to use as much details with our colleagues, but obviously when we're speaking with clients, we want to be able to explain our concept to them so that they will be able to understand using client-friendly language. We want to make sure they understand and that you both have an overall strong communications. We don't want to try to obviously ever sugarcoat things and or lie to them. We're here to just provide it in their terms so that they understand it. Next slide. When you're working as an IT professional, you will spend most of your day working with people. As we said, some clients will be happy and excited, but others will be angry and frustrated before they even begin a conversation with you. In preparing with client-friendly communication, it is especially important to you to begin about how you might interact with an upset client or guest. Appropriate to the communication, especially when it's important in these situations. What do you think something you might do differently when assisting an actual upset client? Think you would do differently? Instead of spot, smile, present myself, offer to help. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Do I just go and keep on going? What should I do at that point?
Depends how well they're doing.
So what should I do differently there? Because obviously continuously trying to smile and pretend that there's nothing wrong
I feel like you have to be sympathetic about whatever is happening and show like a little bit more attention to detail into what the problem really is, and apologize if necessary to begin, so she could like understand that you, or he can understand that you care about the situation.
Yeah, definitely. That one was pretty good order, yeah. So overall, there is 9 steps. Next slide, guys, please. We see the 9 steps here. Remain calm. That's the first thing, as always. Remain calm. It is your fault. No, just kidding. Or as in the company perspective, we always want to express sympathy. But us personally, we should not take it personal. Just be prepared, because they're going to come to you. They're going to be outraged, and it's going to happen. I had a company that I worked for back in the day, and I was just a help desk technician that had just arrived maybe less than a week. And they sent me to this manager in this given cruise line industry. And when I got there, she was outraged. She was just screaming, yelling. I'm apologizing to her. I'm trying to as much to calm her down, and she just keeps on yelling to her at me. I'm like, I do, you know, I've said it already like 5 times, and I go, look, I do apologize. It seems that you are very, very frustrated at this time. And I'm just going to go back downstairs. If you want, just call my supervisor when you think you're ready, so that we could be able to work for a solution. Because she just kept on just yelling. The problem was that my supervisor, he had not even told me. I promised that somebody was going to be there before lunch, and it was already around 3 o'clock. No, actually, no, that's a lie. It was already around 5 p.m. I was doing the last shift. I was there until 8 p.m. So it was past 5 p.m. I was the only one in the help desk. I had the calls coming in, but he told me to go upstairs to her. So sometimes, you know, we need to escalate it to our supervisors. I can't argue with this lady. She's not letting me talk. I'm trying to obviously be sympathetic, but if I start getting to her tone and start yelling to this lady, I could have assured you I probably would have been fired. My supervisor, when I got back, asked me, what did you say to her? I go, I really didn't get a chance to talk. She just kept on yelling, and I apologized for it, and she wouldn't let me talk, so I told her to call you when she was more calmed down. And he said, okay. So, step 1, remain calm, as we said. Then this is next slide. We want to remain calm. We know if we get upset, it's not going to help the situation. So we remember that not to take it personal, as I stated. Listen to use your listening skill. You want to make sure that clients share their concerns, both better understand their concern and show them you care about the problem. Don't just try to be a robot throughout this whole process. This will help, obviously, make sure that you understand the full problem so that we, as a team, can try to solutions that have already been tried. Sometimes we already have a thought, but we want to make sure we listened and heard what the client said. You can restate it. As we stated, we want to make sure. So when we were creating the drawing, some of us didn't restate or put a little drawing up there to make sure that we understood the problem correctly. Just because we did our listening skills, if we don't go back through these steps, it could get catastrophic and even get even worse with the client. Obviously, you want to express sympathy. Remember, you don't want to blame anyone, but you want to tell the client that you're very sorry, obviously, of the given situation that they're in. Issues in technology is always stressful for these people that want to use something and they can't. And be genuine. Make sure that we're not just going through these processes. Obviously, next step was try to find a solution now that we have hopefully determined exactly what the issue is from the client, or at least determine what their real issue that they're complaining about or noting. Obviously, you're going to use from there the steps for troubleshooting. Go through your normal troubleshooting steps to be able to work through that. Everybody remember those where you have the one that we noted prior steps, right? So this is where we would actually insert there if we have to repeat 2 through 3, right? When we get to 4, when we're testing it, then we're going to go through that little cycle until we could actually confirm at the end and hopefully be documenting throughout that process. Next slides, we should be, I don't know why, but I can never see this little thing. It looks like 33. Obviously, saying a solution and making happen are different things. We want to make sure when we tell a client a new part is to fix the computer, but we need to make sure to take the actions and steps really make happen. Make sure we get to procurement. Everybody know who procurement is? Who's procurement in these companies? IT no longer is doing a lot of these functions. We used to be doing a lot of stuff, so we need to know who these different departments are. Nobody has an idea who procurement is? I mean, truthfully, yes or no question. I have no problem. I can explain.
No, I have no idea.
Okay, so we have IT. Everybody knows telecom. Everybody knows the help desk. But believe it or not, now there is an IT procurement. These are the people who need to know about technology enough to be able to purchase the parts for these companies. So when I need something, I will go to that individual, admin, usually it's an administrator type of individual, or sometimes even specialists, depending on the degree of the part that I need, to be able to purchase it. Sometimes it's streamlined through an actual website inside the company, and then it goes to them for approval. I need to be able to put the ticket that's associated and be able to explain to this individual why I need the part. So those people are who you would actually escalate and make sure that it's happening, because then they're going to give you back a tracking number and all that to be able to get that problem fixed and a time of more or less when it's coming. So we need to be able to communicate that. Last step here is to be able to communicate appreciation. Obviously, you want to thank them for their business and apologizing for their difficulties that they're having. Make sure that the client is satisfied. Don't just assume because you fix the part, you put the part in or whatever it is that you did and you believe fix the problem, have them test it, have them have at least a little grace period, or at least the time to confirm that yes, they are satisfied. Always tell them that they can always call back if they see that they have the issue is not resolved, but we always want that confirmation, the initial confirmation before we close any tickets. Make sure that they test, they must test and approve that they believe that the issue has been resolved of what they stated. Questions or doubts? 34. What are key elements of client-friendly communications? Anyone?
What does it mean by cold call?
Oh, that's for me. That's I can now call you, for an instance. Cold call means I should just cold call you guys, but I'm trying to give you actually a chance before I do. Shout out and share is usually go ahead and share, but I give always individuals time to go ahead and talk before I call someone like application. Alexa.
I would say listen to them.
Okay. Thank you. DeAndre, you got any other things that we could do with them? The key elements for client-friendly communications?
Just use simple words, just but that aren't just like too overcomplicated.
Mm-hmm.
I have one.
Mm-hmm.
To sympathize with their situation and kind of level with them, what they're going through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are good ones. So yeah, the main ones, like we said, is that you guys pretty much touched them all. Is the active listening, asking questions, right? Explaining concepts in friendly language, being sympathetic. Obviously, that is always good ones for client-friendly language. Now, the ultimate 9 steps to assist an upset client. That's where we got that sympathy portion of it. Anybody remember those? The 9 steps that we just went over?
Just don't take it personally. I remember that one.
Yeah, remain calm, don't take it personal. Obviously, again, we're going to use our listening skills, show that we heard what the client said, hopefully express sympathy, be as sincere as possible. We're going to apologize gracefully and find a solution. Obviously, at that point is when we inject our troubleshooting skills and steps that are required for a solution and put the solution in motion. Lastly is obviously always thank the client. And that obviously extends the word spot. So when we had spot, we did the first 3, but then all of a sudden we experienced that issue, which made this process grow. We had to remain calm right after we said our first 3 letters there of spot. So we need to be able to practice these skills. Obviously, these skills here or steps are in that order, but obviously because as soon as they start yelling, we need to think as a human. It's okay. I know I'm upset at that moment. That's a human reaction. That's not the problem. The problem from here is we need to remain calm and don't take it personal. Sometimes a lot of individuals do. Any questions on the 9 steps? We're going to, due to lack of time right now, You guys can do this as a part of your classwork when you have later on this week some time. You can practice the role of this, but right now we're running, unfortunately, a little bit out of time. Any questions or doubts? So I'm on slide 37 at this point. So the groups will be doing slides 36 together on their own. Slide 36. Not at this point. What was the hardest part of being of an IT professional? What do you think it is? What's the hardest part when you're dealing with an outrage? What do you think would be the hardest part?
Staying calm.
Yeah, that one's a big one. You know, that one it gets a little bit frustrating, and sometimes those days that you get 2 or 3 back to back, or even throughout the whole day, we need to make sure that also we don't take these things home. That one will be one of the hardest one, right? Staying calm. Any other feedback in reference to that question? So
Probably not upsetting them more.
yeah, that would be hard, right?
Trying to explain something to them that most of them might not understand.
Yes. That's the big one I found also. So that would be the one where when I first started, that trying to explain to a user what you know, but trying to use it in another language was a little bit difficult when I first started. I guess to me afterwards it just came second nature because we didn't have the technology that we had now, so we had to explain over a phone. Yes, I said phone. Basically the problem to them and walk them through the process. Just imagine trying to walk a user to the start menu, control panel, and or any other situation that you're going to give them. It wasn't easy. So after of that, after I think it was after my first year of doing that in a help desk, it just after that it just became second nature. I was already used to it, and I made sure that obviously I made those probing questions to make sure that we were all in the same spot, especially with those tech savvy ones, because sometimes those jump ahead. Next slide, please. 38. Actually, those you can answer after you do your activities on 36. So any questions? We're on 39, finishing up here. So we have 36 where we're going to be doing the activity, and 38 you can answer the questions in your notes. Questions, doubts? So what we learned in today's session is to demonstrate active listening by nodding, making sure that we do eye contact, paraphrasing what the client said. That was very important in the first one. And we remember even when we had those probing questions and gathering all the information, we never really paraphrased or confirmed how I want that picture made. We never even confirmed. I mean, we kind of said, okay, is that what you said? But we all assumed we had the same picture. Most of us did, but we didn't have. Next one is to explain in client-friendly, clear and concise, obviously. Hopefully not using too many complex words for them. List and demonstrate, obviously, the 9 steps involved that assist us with a upset client versus just using spot where we smile, present ourselves, and then offer to help. At that point, we would obviously insert our 9 steps before we even proceed to troubleshooting. Any questions or doubts? That is pretty much all I have for this session. Let me stop recording here.